Thanks for tuning in to Becoming Something, where we promise to keep the conversation honest and real for young adults in their 20s and 30s. Every moment we live is training for a future moment, and that's why we do this podcast, because we want you to be prepared for everything that life is going to throw at you. Our hope with this podcast is that it would help you become all that God desires you to be. So with that in mind, let's jump right in to this week's episode of Becoming Something.
What's up, podcast world? It's your boy JP in the podcast studio with the only. I was gonna say one and only.
I think I am the only Nate Hilgenkamp. There aren't many Hilgenkamps.
I was gonna
there.
say one and only Nate Dogg, but
oh wow,
so I was gonna go.
One.
I was gonna go gangster, and then it turned out to be like as least gangster as it could possibly be.
Did he die, Nate Dogg?
Oh man, sadly I don't know, which is sad.
How do you not know that,
man?
I think he's on an island with the other guy. Who's the other guy?
Warren G. Oh, Tupac.
Tupac.
Who's the other guy?
Yeah, the other guy.
Hey, you're gonna say who's the other guy?
All I know is like Lecrae and Stephen Curtis Chapman and Casting Crowns. I don't know Tupac.
Yeah, and Christmas shoes. And so for that reason, we're bringing in an expert from the great state of Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee, to be exact. Jennifer Hart, please, thank you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. I wish I was there in person.
Yeah, well,
we wish we were in Nashville.
We thought you were going.
Okay.
We thought you were going to be. That's what your people told us. She'll be there in person, and so then we found out no, it's actually a Zoom, and so you can imagine our disappointment.
Yeah, no one told me I was going to be there in person.
Okay.
So.
That's amazing.
So we're bringing you on as the subject matter expert. Christmas shoes. Nate says it's a song. I've never heard the song. Turns out 63% of my followers have heard the song.
Which I don't know how it's not more than that.
But what about you, Jennifer? Could you sing us?
Christmas shoes, like shoes on your feet.
Yeah.
No, I've never heard of it.
But she's kidding though.
So as a professional musician in Nashville, which is where all music is recorded, all the music in the world, you've never heard the song Christmas Shoes?
No, have you?
No, I haven't.
No,
because I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure it's a real song.
Of all Christmas songs, it is like a top 5. I don't like the
it's
song.
On par with Jingle Bells. That's what he said.
I did say that.
No.
I did say that, which is probably not true.
And one person commented, "I'm with Nate. I think it is on par with Jingle Bells."
Wow.
They commented on Instagram, and I'm like,
here's the deal. I'm the voice of the people. Like the people. I listen to the people's music.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Christmas Shoes is a big deal.
Yeah, he listens to the people's music. Who's that other guy on the island? Is it Tupac? Yeah, you.
I'm trying to see what year this was out
It was out in 2000. It's a very sad song. A son tries to buy Christmas shoes for his mom who's dying of cancer and can't pay for it, so someone else pays for it. It's a touching song. It'll make you cry. Go listen to it.
That's very sad.
It's the saddest song. I did listen to it.
Oh, okay, good.
I verified that it's real.
Good.
It's the saddest song I've ever heard in my life.
It's horrible. Yeah.
One person even commented and said, "I don't think it's sad. It's actually a beautiful picture of generosity." And I'm like, no, it's a really sad picture of generosity. It's like a boy's giving his dying mom some shoes, right?
Oh,
Wow,
come on,
so
man.
I know. But hey, at least now
terrible.
I've exposed you to Christmas shoes.
I'm sad about it. I wish you wouldn't have.
Hey,
Jennifer, thanks for
I
joining
do-
us. Yeah, now
Yes,
go ahead.
of course. I do remember this song now. I don't know if I remember the lyric or melody or anything, but the story, we learned about it in my private Christian school.
Do you want to give it? Give it a shot? You want to try to sing it? Just.
Oh gosh, I have no idea how it
I
goes.
said I want to buy these shoes.
Oh my gosh, I
For
know this song.
my mama, please. There we go. There we go.
Okay, I know that song.
There
I
we
do
go.
know it.
Yeah.
Was it because of how I was singing it? It was so.
Well, it's just the
Perfect.
Christmas shoes.
Yeah.
The title, I'm like, I didn't recognize it, but now
There
you
we
sing
go.
it.
A Nashville
Yeah.
I totally
song
know it.
singer.
Your new hit is 1992. Is that right? How's it go?
Well, yeah, 1992. Yep.
Is that
the
the
EP
call?
name.
Is that the whole? Yeah.
You want me to sing how it
Yes.
goes?
Yeah.
Or you got it.
We'll do it together.
Okay.
I don't know about you. It's 1992. Is that how it goes?
I made about $20 billion on that song.
Yeah, I love it.
Man.
I love it.
Because Taylor Swift was a co-writer.
She basically ripped it.
Have you met Taylor Swift?
No, but I would love to.
Man.
Well,
Hey,
she's actually in the studio.
She just broke up with Joe.
Yeah,
I heard that.
I'm devastated. I'm like, if they can't work out, who can?
Is it true though?
No,
is it maybe not?
6 years.
I don't know.
6 years.
I have no idea.
Behind us.
Wow.
So sad. Well,
Hey,
we're gonna get a lot of good songs.
How are we friends? That's why I was trying to think. Like, if somebody said, "Hey, how do you know Jennifer?" I would be like, Instagram, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I would say, I guess through a little bit of David at the porch, Instagram.
David,
kind
David, man, best co-host I've ever had.
Oh my word.
That's I'd like to put that. Some would say #goals.
Yeah. I think it was like through him, but to be honest, I think our first connection was like Instagram, and then at that leadership retreat here in Nashville.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What was that? Oh, like a Grant Skeldon thing?
Yes, that was a couple years ago.
Oh, let's go. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I do. I remember that. That's great.
Yeah.
And so, so you got married? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
January 1st.
Congratulations.
Wow, that's awesome.
Thank you.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Very, very new to marriage.
And so you are in Nashville?
Yeah.
And so here's a question, like, how is the music industry changing? Because, once upon a time, you would try to get a label and, play on the side of the road, with your guitar open and hoping somebody of influence walked by and said, "Hey, we want to support you and make a CD." I'm saying that intentionally. And now it seems like, guys like someone I follow, Jake or Lauren Spencer, or there's just, even Bieber, I guess, was found on YouTube, right? Where it's just like social media is kind of driving a lot of that. So what have you seen?
Oh my gosh, it is changing like crazy. So I'd say you can't just walk into office buildings anymore and say, "Here's my CD demo." They'd look at you like you're crazy. And first impression is kind of everything in this industry too. So you definitely don't want to do that anymore. And social media is huge, especially the start of 2020, all through COVID and quarantine, and people were just on their phones all the time. So it gave a lot of people opportunity for their songs to take off on social media, and it's really changed the game, which is both good and bad. It's good because you have a lot more of an audience and, I guess, a platform for that, but it's bad because it's just social media and you're on your phone, and it's not really the way that people used to be recognized or brought up in the industry. So it's interesting. Yeah.
It seems like, have we ever done a series on, like, we've not done like a lyrics and lies or anything, but I feel like we talk about it every year.
Yeah.
But it's hard to do now, right? Because it's like, what are the songs everybody knows? Like back in the day, it would be like, hey, these are the songs on the radio.
Yeah.
Everybody knows them. Now I feel like with Gen Z, it's really cool to listen to someone nobody else has heard of, or like to have this really like kind of rogue, like, oh, I found this song on SoundCloud, or Spotify over here. There's another guy that he was making these reels and TikToks, if you will, and I was like, that's amazing. And he was just edit him, cut. He's basically the one character, but he's in there like 3 times, and that's how he was writing music and writing songs and whatnot and producing. And I'm like, man, the whole game has changed. The industry has changed.
It really has, and it's changing again. Like, it's post-COVID now, and it's starting to just. I don't know. It's very interesting. Like, the business side of things and then the creative side of things, the business side is starting to change because a lot of artists have so much opportunity and so many streams on their own that it has to change. It has to keep up with, the amount of streams that people are getting now.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on, like, what is, like, what role does music, or should music play in our lives? And I'm thinking about, I know that one thing that you've talked about is mental health, and so just like how there's an aspect of even church, right? Every single Sunday we go to church, and most churches that I know of today kind of start the service, if you will, in the first half or first, 40% of the morning is just singing and music and in a band and whatnot. And so have you wrestled with just like a right theology around that, or, hey, what are you trying to do with it, or what role should music play in our lives?
Oh, definitely. I mean, music for me, I don't know if you guys know anything about my background story, but I
Tell
was
us.
10 years old. Yeah, diagnosed with Tourette syndrome, OCD, severe, severe social anxiety. And that in music, honestly, it was a mix of, I did natural Chinese acupuncture that really helped my symptoms. My mom had a prayer group going with all of her friends, and music. Those were like the three things that helped me through it, and music still does. Music's the thing that I still have every day at any second, which I've now turned to worship music mostly, as in, what I listen to. But yeah, I think it's been early on in my career, I considered, do I want to do Christian music? Because I want to connect to people. I want people to feel God's presence through me, that kind of stuff. And I just really felt called to country music. It's what I grew up on. It's what I know really well. I love worship music for myself to listen to, and I grow throughout that. But I really wanted to connect to people on more of a mental health relationship, personal level, and hopefully people will see God through me through that. Because there's Christian artists who are singing to Christians. I want to sing a little bit to everybody, so maybe people can find God. I don't know what God's having me doing, but we're figuring it out every day. So I really like to talk about stuff I've been through. I like to be really honest in songs, whether it's a song I wrote about my dad, whether it's a bad relationship I've been through, just honest, real thoughts, even about anxiety. There's something about being authentic. It doesn't sit right with me if there's a song that I don't personally relate to, because then I just won't cut it and release it. It just doesn't feel right.
So you said Tourette's, OCD, and anxiety? Was that the three?
Yeah.
And so that was at an early age?
Yeah, was diagnosed at 10.
And so what did that look like at 10? Like, because I would have a hard, I have a 10-year-old, and it would be hard for me to discern whether he's OCD in a diagnosable way or a 10-year-old. Yeah. So what did that look like?
Yeah. Oh, it was severe. I love talking about this. I can talk to you about all the things. I can diagnose I'm just kidding. I can't. But
JP has too much. I don't even know if you could diagnose all that he's got going on. But.
No. So for me, we focus mostly on the Tourette's because OCD and anxiety kind of tag along with it. But you can have OCD without having Tourette's. You can't really have Tourette's without having OCD. So it was more of any tic I would have, which would be anything from.
Can I say this real quick, Jennifer? Because most people, when they hear Tourette's, they're going to think you were, as a 10-year-old, randomly blurting out curse words. And was that what it looked like for you?
Not for me. I don't know what the statistics are now, but I know about 10 years ago, only 13% of people with Tourette syndrome actually shouted profanity.
Yeah.
So that's, of course, the most well-known symptom, but it's not a very common tic.
What is it if it's not that? That's all.
It's
that's
basically
all
the best way that I can explain it for anyone who just does not experience it is you have an itch so badly that you want to scratch, and you can control it to a point, but at some point you're just going to explode and it's all going to come out.
Yeah.
And it can be anywhere on your body. So it's it could be as simple as eye blinking to some weird vocal movements to hitting. I would hit my basically my elbow to my stomach and I'd be bruised. I'd jerk my neck back, and just any random movement that you kind of look crazy, and I felt crazy. So I was very embarrassed by it. It was very severe. I held it in as much as I could in public, in school, and then I would just completely explode at home because I was very embarrassed by it. Was afraid people would make fun of me. It was scary. It was really scary at the time. And then the OCD aspect would make everything 10 times worse because I had to do it a certain amount of times until my brain told me, you got that perfect check mark. You're good. You can move on to the next one. Even switching on a light switch would do it about 100 times before I felt right about it. Something I still to this day, I've struggled with this my whole life, and still to this day, I have a severe fear that I'm either allergic to foods or medicines, or that a cereal box that I pick out in the store, the one that I pick out is going to be poisoned. So that's something I still like have to talk myself out of. And I know it's the OCD talking.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've heard that a lot in pastoral ministry, and it's interesting that we're having this conversation. Didn't know we were going to go here, but, I remember that. Like, I mean, and that's what's hard for me is, I can remember exactly what you just said. Like, hey, that's going to be poisonous. Or I can remember, I have this really vivid memory of seeing, what do you call it? I guess it was like a bug poison, insect poison, and thinking, oh, that's in the air and I'm breathing it. And like, am I going to be okay? And there's some aspect of that you grow through. And then there's some aspect of that if you feed it with your thoughts, it grows. And I think that's a hard part of now. A parent myself is like, where do we come around our children and say, hey, that's okay, that's normal, it's no big deal, play it off. And then when you say, oh wow, okay, hold on, hey man, we need to take you over here. I want to get you with somebody. We may need to put you on medication. And so that's been a real challenge in just thinking through that. And I see a lot of parents being faced with that challenge too, of like, all right, when do I, how do I know if my child is sick and needs attention, or their brain is just developing in certain ways, and these are things they're going to grow out of,
Yeah, I think there's a big difference between OCD intrusive thoughts and obsessing over it, and then just normal thoughts. We have how many tens of thousands of thoughts a day? I'm sure that thought's going to pop in someone's mind, and if they can just let it go, then it's like, that's just a thought. But OCD gives meaning to the thought, and you obsess over it over and over and over, and it's when you like take action on it. So you won't eat cereal again because you think it's poisoned, or you can't pick out the box, that kind of stuff, and you're obsessing over it. Sometimes you have panic attacks thinking you're having an allergic reaction, like whatever your intrusive thought is, whatever it may be. I think it's OCD when you can't let the obsession go and it's like affecting your life.
Go ahead. No, you got it.
How do you fight back against intrusive thoughts? Because that's something that we've heard from listeners a number of times. It's like, what do I do with intrusive thoughts? So what do you do today?
It is hard, and I'm still figuring it out every day. I think the number one thing for me, I've dealt with it for so long that I usually know when it's an intrusive thought. But the interesting thing is, not with like food being poisoned or anything like that, but with like a gut feeling, sometimes it's really hard to know if that's an OCD thought, if it's God, or if it's the enemy. Because because sometimes you're like, oh, it's a gut feeling.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, then that's from God. But then you're like, but I don't feel peace about it. And then what if it's this? And what if it's this? And then your mind just starts going crazy. And it's like, that's an intrusive thought, probably, most likely, but it's also the enemy getting in. So it's hard. I think the thing that helps me most is knowing that I struggle with this and saying like, okay, this is an intrusive thought. You can move on from this. And some days it's easier than others, but that's, I think, like the first step, but it's hard. I'm still figuring it out.
Man, that's a good word. Is it, cause a lot of Christians wrestle with, hey, is it God? Is it me? Or is it Satan? And even then you throw in OCD, that adds a layer of complexity. Like, you've overcome a lot. You're writing music, and weren't you Miss Arizona? Did I make that up?
Yes, this is my 10-year anniversary.
Let's go.
That's amazing.
So pageant winner, recording artist, and recovering from coping with OCD, Tourette syndrome, and anxiety. Are you familiar with the term scrupulosity?
No.
So it's like where OCD.
You just made up a word.
You just made up I don't know. You made up a song. So it's like where OCD is targeted toward religious ideas, and so it begins to play this. Hey, is God going to forgive me? Am I like, what do I believe about God? Is he mad at me? It can overlap with end times theology, and it's just this. You see this a lot in pastoral ministry where somebody is struggling with, OCD or mental illness, and it plays a big role in their faith. And so I think it's similar to, there would have some overlaps with, hey, is this God? Is this OCD? Is this the enemy? And I think as we're trying to figure that out, we can test it like, all right, is it consistent with what the scripture says? Is this thought counter to God's written word? And then if that's not helpful, like we're like, well, I don't know, it's kind of this gray area, then we can bring in other believers that are consistently speaking in our life. Say, I hear the Lord telling me that I should quit coffee, right? This nagging feeling that I got in the coffee line, but is this the enemy trying to rob me of grace from being able to drink coffee? Or is this God, Holy Spirit conviction? Or is this my own obsessive thoughts, which, the enemy's going to use that against me to keep me in a place of shame and debilitating overthinking, and whatnot. And so I think we can bring other people in and say, hey, would you just pray for me? And it's really helpful if those folks have been in it with us and they know us for a season, and they can say, this is a pattern. Hey, here's some other things that are happening in your life. And they really serve the role of a counselor. I think as a counselor gets to know you and they ask really good questions and you're meeting with them consistently, the Proverbs say wisdom comes from the counsel of many. And so I think if we have that consistent counsel, they can begin to serve the purpose of a counselor or in addition to a counselor, and kind of help us discern, hey, whether this is a thought that we need to take captive or a thought that we should submit to, as the Holy Spirit. And I think that take captive is what the scripture says, take every thought captive and make it obedient to Christ. But I think that word take captive can really paint the wrong picture of how we deal with this, because with anxiety, you trying to wrestle a thought to the ground is not going to be helpful. It's almost a little bit better, or not a little bit, it is more effective. I want to speak precisely. It is more effective to take a step back, to look at the thought and just kind of be amused by it. Be like, that thought is that I shouldn't drink coffee. Yeah, I don't know. I don't need to overreact to that thought. I need to test it. I need to pray through it. I need to invite other people into thinking about it. But it's okay that I had that thought. That it's totally okay. No big deal. Are there any other thoughts that I should vet? And almost just kind of be a patient with yourself. Have a kindness with yourself. And so that's some of the things I've learned in my own journey of cognitive behavioral therapy, which is very scientific. But what was really encouraging to me was all of the overlaps with biblical ideas. And so there's just nothing new under the sun, and God's word is proven, 10 for 10.
Oh, absolutely. And I think a big importance with this is practicing all of that prayer, breathing exercises, anything like that when you're feeling good. Because then when you're feeling bad, when you're anxious, that's the last thing you want to go to. You're just freaking out and having a panic attack or whatever it may be. But if you're used to it when you're in a healthy state, you're going to more naturally do it when you're kind of anxious.
Jennifer, that's a great word. And so it's like working out. It's like you can get in the gym, you can get fit, and then you can be like, oh, I got fit. Now I'm going to take some time off. Well, then what happens? You take some, you get unhealthy again, or gym, exercise, diet, and then you stop those things. Sorry, my phone's ringing. You stop doing those things, and then you get unhealthy, and then you go back, and you have this kind of yo-yo effect. Same thing with mental health is we're like, oh, I'm mentally unhealthy. My mind is cluttered. I'm having intrusive thoughts. I need to meditate, pray, practice breathing exercises. Okay, now I'm well again. I'm not going to do that. Now my mind is cluttered again. And so best is to keep that maintenance there, so that I think God made us, and this is what's fascinating to me. I think God created us to start our day in stillness and in communion with Him. And so when we don't do that, we run into the impact of not doing that. I'm not saying that all mental illness is because you didn't have a quiet time. I am saying that you were made to have a quiet time, and if you don't spend time with God, and by quiet time I mean spending time with God, and if you don't spend time with God for a prolonged season, you're going to get to a place where your brain's really cluttered and your thoughts are hard to separate and understand. And so it's important that we stay in that maintenance mode, that we're always taking care of ourselves.
Yeah. It's the same thing we do with God in prayer. Like when we're in a good season, we're like, I don't need you.
Yeah.
And then we're in crisis and we're like, please help me. So yeah, absolutely. Same thing.
How do you go about writing songs? Like, how do you know that you have a topic or something that you want to write a song about? How do you choose that?
Yeah, songwriting is very interesting because sometimes you write about something completely made up, and other times it's very personal. Um, I, if I'm really feeling something in the moment and I go into a writing session, I'm like, this is what I need to write about. I can't write about anything else because I'm just feeling this. Then we write, and it's that's what co-writers are for. They kind of help you tell your story when you can't tell it yourself. And then sometimes you just keep ideas. We can have a conversation here and you say something cool. I'm like, oh, that would be a cool song title. And you kind of think on it and think, how can this be made into an awesome song? And you write it. So it really depends on the day, on the mood, on what you're going through in life. Sometimes you start with a title. Sometimes you start with just an idea, a melody. Like it's all different. But what I'm finding is the stuff that comes easiest for me to write, easy as in easy where the lyrics pour out, not easy emotionally or mentally. It's usually the hardest to write emotionally, are the stuff I really connect to. And stuff I don't connect to that much, I'm like, it's a great song, but just not hitting right.
So were you alive in 1992?
I was born.
Okay.
Yeah.
I figured that was the case.
Yeah.
So is that the heart behind that? I assume like you're like, hey, this is when I was born.
Yeah, so it is. And that song specifically it sounds like an upbeat, fun song, but if you listen to the lyrics, it's kind of everything I struggle with. The second verse it's like the cheerleaders and jocks had babies and got jobs, and I'm still trying to find out where I fit in. Thought the monsters, I think it's that, something monsters hiding underneath my bed moved.
Is
up
this
to
your
my
song?
head. Yeah, yeah.
Sing it, Nate.
Yeah. The monsters
here.
and the jocks all got babies and jobs. Is that how it goes?
Exactly.
No,
No.
man, that
Close,
wasn't it.
close. No, but it's thought that I'd outgrow the monsters hiding underneath my bed, but they moved up to my head, and my dad ain't here to check.
Wow.
So that that's just that little line is like, the monsters are in my head now. Yeah.
Dude, we could take that and make a like awesome hip hop song.
Yeah, totally.
Your other song is about your dad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep, Half the Man. Yes.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, so that was kind of the first song that I wrote that I really was like, I'm going to write about my life and my relationship with my dad and what I want in a future spouse.
Yeah.
And it worked. When I was put myself out there, it worked.
Yeah. So did anybody say that at the wedding? Hey, you're half the man.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
One of the groomsmen,
Yeah.
his speech was hilarious, and it was all about that.
Oh, sure.
It just feels so hard to do. Like, I can't imagine writing a song about, I don't know, my dad and then performing in front of everyone. That just feels so vulnerable.
The interesting thing is I was not okay listening to father-daughter type songs at any wedding. I would embarrassingly just bawl my eyes
Butterfly
out.
kisses after
just awful.
bedtime prayer.
Yes.
Sticking little
Yes.
white flowers all up in her hair.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Are you sure your calling's not in music?
No, I mean, a lot of people say it is, but
Yeah.
I just basically
I
leverage that gift for the ministry.
Maybe we can do a duet or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, but ever since I wrote that song about my dad, I have not cried at a single father-daughter dance song. So I'm like, I think it was like therapy that needed to
There you go.
get out. Yeah,
That's
very
what.
interesting.
Any thoughts on? Okay, so we talk about how music has a positive effect, and and can be therapy, but it also, I mean, I see a lot, and in my own life and experience, it has a negative effect, right? And that's like an interesting thing. We don't have time to go too far into this, but I've just thought a lot about, I mean, how bad music. I mean, there was a song I can remember by 50 Cent that we would all dance to. Everybody was like, it would come on and everybody would hit the dance floor at every wedding, every club, all the things. And I started listening, and then I became a Christian, and kind of in this crossroads of like being in the world and becoming a Christian. I started listening to the lyrics, and I was like, oh man, this song is really bad. Like, it is not good. Like the nature, the subject matter of the song is not good. And I do have that. I do believe that has an impact on our lives. Many people believe that Satan was the first worship leader because there's an interpretation of verses in Ezekiel and Isaiah where he has music instruments built into his body, and so like that's like a part of what he was like this. He was like a walking musical instrument. And so I think it is a tool of his too to lead us astray. And so do you have any like guidelines there, things that you think through, like, hey, what music,
Yeah, I mean, I'm very intentional about that. I get very convicted on listening to certain songs, even in country music.
Yeah.
There are certain songs that may be about
Mama
cheating, not
and
like
trains and bars.
Yeah, and it's tough because there are certain songs that like they're talking about like cheating on their spouse or whatever. And I'm
maybe
like,
next time he'll think before. Which Carrie, right?
That's a little. I've met her. I don't really know her, but I've met her.
She doesn't know her like you know her.
That's right. Me, yeah. First name basis.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, there's songs like obviously a cheating song if you've been cheated on, whatever. That's fine. A lot of people have been through that. But something of like cheating on your spouse. As much as catchy as some of them are, like I can't do it. I don't feel right about it.
What was the one that you sang? I don't know if you sang it. You read the lyrics in the sermon.
What was
the cheating song? The Johnny Cash or what's his name? Florida Georgia Line.
Man, I don't know what you're talking about.
It's Midnight Rain or something.
Oh, Garth Brooks. Thunder rolls. And the thunder rolls.
Wait, is that about
and
cheating?
The lightning Are you kidding me? You're in Nashville.
Oh, God, I don't even know this.
And he knows that she knows. And the thunder rolls.
Oh,
How does it go?
Who's Garth Brooks?
Oh, my goodness. I cannot.
And 50 Cent.
I'm leaving.
Who's
I'm
50
leaving.
Cent?
I'm done. You know who Garth Brooks is.
I do know who Garth Brooks is.
Okay.
I could not.
How does that song go, Coley?
Coley's not even in here.
You don't.
No, that's Spencer.
Coley's right there. You goober. What are you talking about? Coley just peeked up over behind the
computer
the computer. Man, and lightning crashes in her eyes, and he knows that she knows.
Something about smelling perfume.
Rolls. Oh man, this is good radio right here, guys. Riveting. Everyone's leaning in on YouTube at this moment, and I cannot. He's across town. I can't remember the lyrics.
Waiting by the window.
Yep.
Pulls up the drive.
Oh gosh, wow! I need to listen to the lyrics
wait.
because I don't know that.
What's something that makes you the most nervous about being like growing in the country music sphere? Like does any of that make you nervous? Like obviously the goal is to have everyone listen to your music, but what about that scares you?
Honestly, I've been taking a little social media break for a couple weeks because that is what scares me. Social media and so much focus on you and trying to be other people, like that's scary. It's been so nice. Like I'll get on once in a while to check my messages, which is why I checked them so late this morning.
Yeah.
But it's just like comparing yourself. This industry, you're literally judged off of your looks, your voice, your talents, what you say, what you do, what you don't do.
Wow.
And so it's so easy to judge yourself in that way and be so critical and compare yourself to other people. That's the thing that scares me the most is you think, oh, once I sign a record deal, I'm going to be fine and happy. Once I get a #1 hit, once I win a Grammy, and it's like, no, I just would love to be nominated for a Grammy, not even win. And it's like, no, once you're in that situation, you want to win.
Totally.
And then when you win, it's not enough. You want another one and another one. That's what scares me, is that's never going to end. So just really trying to be content with where I'm at. And it's very, very hard.
Man, I'm so glad God did not give me a voice because that sounds like miserable. Well, you're living the dream. Like everyone wants to be you. Being in your shoes sounds exhausting.
Yeah.
It's very exhausting because I don't even want to be me sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to be all these other people, you know, and it's really trying to be who God made me to be and be okay with that.
Yeah, man, contentment. That's a whole nother topic. We can have you back to do that. I think just to put a bow on the line of, hey, what music do we listen to? I think it's like, hey, does it make me more godly? Does it make me love Jesus more? And music that's not about Jesus can make you love Jesus more. Like if it's morally neutral, if it's not talking about something that's like planting seeds in your head. But I do think we're probably way off course. And I know I sound like, somebody's grandma right now. And this is a person who loved music and like gangster rap specifically for a long time, hip hop for a long time, and the club scene and the dance scene and all that for a long time. And it it does stuff to our hearts that I think we're really, really naive to. And so we should look at the lyrics and just say, hey, does that make me love God more or not? Does it stir something positive, godly in me or not? So
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree.
yeah. All right, friends. Anything else? Anything you'd say, hey, we got to say this, we got to touch on this. So I think that's really helpful. And just around even talking, I mean, music and mental health. That's what we've covered. Nate, what are your thoughts?
I mean,
I found the lyrics, guys.
Okay, let's hear
It's
it.
3:30 in the morning, not a soul in sight. The city's looking like a ghost town on a moonless summer night. Raindrops on the windshield, there's a storm moving in. And he's headed back from somewhere that he never should have been, and the thunder rolls.
There we go.
That's your part.
And the lightning strikes.
And the lightning strikes. Shout out, Kathy.
Man.
I forgot about that.
Oh.
I love it. Jennifer, thanks so much for jumping on with us. Friends, thank you for joining the
Thank you,
conversation about music and mental health, and we will see you guys next week.
Thanks for tuning in to Becoming Something, where we promise to keep the conversation honest and real for young adults in their 20s and 30s. Every moment we live is training for a future moment, and that's why we do this podcast, because we want you to be prepared for everything that life is going to throw at you. Our hope with this podcast is that it would help you become all that God desires you to be. To find out more, visit becomingsomething.com.